So we have a session with now Anup Singh, who's the founder of dLife. So let me introduce Anup a bit. Anup, you're back, and I think your mic is also on. So let's begin the session. So introducing myself again, for people who have joined in just now, I am Ira Sahai, the Chief Operating Officer of dLife Healthcare Private Limited, a very proud dLife certified metabolic health practitioner and your lead host for the Metabolic Health Conference Season 3. dLife is India's first and the only award-winning low-carb platform, which was founded by Anup Singh in 2014. He's a silver medalist from IIT Roorkee and the recipient of the Icons of India Award by the Outlook Group in 2022 for his path-breaking contribution in the space of Indian low carb, and especially for his contribution through the protocol of 100-gram carbs per day max on a low carb diet, even for Indian vegetarians, which made not only low carb possible for Indian vegetarians, but also diabetes remission based on that protocol was possible because it was a grain heavy diet. And when you reduce carbs, when you talk about a low carb diet, how low the carbs must be, that is what came from Anup. The only online evidence of 100-gram carbs, as we know now, I have not seen any other mention of 100-gram carbs per day, is Anup's reference online when he talked about he has been on 100-gram carbs per day max for 1 year already, which was since 2011. So this is the only reference. And now as more science is coming to the fore and more evidence is coming to the fore, I think Nina tweeted a few days back that, 100-gram carbs is the only doable thing when you're talking about putting chronic lifestyle diseases under remission. You go any higher than that and you're going to have repercussions. So Anup, just to complete his intro, as I said, he was awarded the Icons of India Award in 2022 by the Outlook Group for his contribution to Indian low carb space. He's been the pioneer of low carb movement in India, who made vegetarian low carb possible. And Dr. David Unwin, the Doyen, as I call him, keeps referring to dLife. Even for recipes, the dLife forum has been reviewed and evaluated by the top names in the low carb space, the iconic names in the low carb space: Dr. Gary Fedke, Dr. David Unwin, David Diamond, Tucker Goodrich, who's also in this metabolic health conference. His session will be coming up. Ivor Cummins. There's so many, Nina, Amy Berger. There's so many of them who've reviewed dLife in glorious words. So Anup, you've created a giant in the world, which is just shaking and awakening the world, every day. And the fact that we are sitting here started as the first step from you when you started talking about low carb on overseas platforms and overseas forums when you were diagnosed with diabetes on Valentine's Day, which was February 14th, 2011. Happy Valentine's Day, Anu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and it's just to link it up. The Metabolic Health Conference was deliberately scheduled on 14th February, starting 14th February, to celebrate a pill-free life that Anup has lived for the last 14 years. 15th year begins now. That's a huge achievement, Anup. And tell us how the journey started. And you've just tested 2 days back, and the numbers have been fantastic. How has the journey been for you on your own protocol, 100-gram carbs per day? You've lived a life of 60 grams, 100 grams, 120, 160. Tell us this entire spectrum and journey.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. And, what a day today for two reasons. Yes, 14 years completed. And the second most important thing I would say is I'm being hosted by my COO, right?
Thank you.
So as far as 14 years, 14 years journey, 14 years is not a small period where people can say it has worked for maybe 6 months, 9 months. I've lived through every possible, carbohydrate levels, and not just lived for experimentation, but putting logic and brain behind it, that why I should be doing this or why I should be, increasing it to 120, 140, 160. And I have the numbers to talk and say with conviction why 100 grams carb is the only thing that works. And we are not just rolling a dice, to come to 120, 130, 160 numbers. So it has a scientific basis, and the scientific basis, as I've talked many a times, it's based on liver's glycogen holding capacity. Now, since that has been talked many a times, I'm not going to repeat it. And the 14 years of journey, if I have to cover each and everything, I think a book can be written on it. So let's leave that part to somebody else to write. But yes, highlight was when I was I think into fifth or sixth year, and everything was working fine. Then I had taken a pledge that I would not come on video till I complete 10 years. So my first video podcast was when I had completed 10 years, and there's a reason for it. I think when I was in fifth or sixth year, I came across a video of somebody, some doctor on Atkins diet. And that video was titled 12 years on Atkins diet, pill free.
Mm.
So I never could imagine that living pill free was possible. So let's take a pledge that if I complete 10 years, I'll be on video podcast. So that is one. And as far as the start of the journey is concerned, I think 2011 first 6 months was very hectic. I was doing very fast changes, trying to get my numbers down. And yes, it did come down. In 2011, by May, I was hitting A1C of 5.0. I relaxed, then took it up to 120, 140, 150, all those numbers. And November, I got an
120 grams of carbs, you mean?
yes,
And
120.
yeah,
Yeah, 120, 150, 160. I thought, I had mastered everything. Now A1C is 5.0.
I will interject here, Anup, and I have a question that I asked you in the ninth year anniversary of dLife. Why 100 grams? Why not even 110 grams, 120 grams? Forget 150.
Yeah,
I
livers.
mean, let us talk about the science of it because, people who do not know, let us understand why 100 grams only.
It is
And this was
prime.
way back when nobody had talked about 100-gram carbs per day, whether in India or on overseas, online platforms. Yours is the only reference that we can find of 100-gram carbs per day in 2012 when you said, I've already lived on this protocol for 1 year. And here I am. So tell us that journey of how did you arrive at 100-gram carbs per day max protocol?
When I started, I used to say, 20% carbohydrate, 20% protein, 60% fat, good fat, saturated fat. Now, 20% carbohydrate was the limit. You cannot go above that. And that 20% translates to, when we started talking in grams, it translates to 100 grams specifically. Now, why not 120, 130? Yes, ADA has got 130, being talked of since ages, but that was for weight loss, not for diabetes. Yeah, not for diabetes in particular. And there also, it's a transit during transition phase. Once you're back to your original weight, go back to eating again 60%, 70% carbohydrate. So my idea was, if we have to reach a number which is workable for Indians. Let me, underline that, because prior to that, everybody has been trying rehashing the Western concept of low carb is equal to keto. That would never have worked, and it never worked. Honestly, it never worked because people used to give up out of frustration or out of limitation. So this 100 grams carbohydrate is based primarily on the liver's glycogen holding capacity, right? Now, even if you go off by 20%, 10% in calculating or, getting the total carbohydrate limit within control, even if it is 10% off, you're still below the capacity. And even if it goes 10% above the capacity, it is manageable because we are not sitting idle as such, right? The problem begins when people start thinking that A1C is the benchmark they have to get down to 5.6 max, irrespective of what the other markers are. I think I can talk about this later when I discuss 150, 160 carbohydrate. So this is where it started. It all started in 2011, 2012. As you said, there's a forum, I think, operated out of US, where I had mentioned I was also learning and trying to see what people are doing and how many are really talking of 100 grams carbohydrate. Unfortunately, there also it was 30 grams carbohydrate per day. That's it. So
In fact,
2012,
on that forum where your evidence of 100-gram carbs per day max is still there,
Yeah.
We have read, that people have written there that they have never come across this number ever anywhere. And this is the first time they are hearing about it. And it has really helped them. So there are so many testimonials right from 2012 lying on the international forums on the online space about your 100-gram carbs. So it is really commendable that before things were out there, for people to know, you came up with such a brilliant number as you computed it, based on the liver's glycogen holding capacity. And yeah, I totally agree there with you, Anup. And tell us, I mean, from the journey from there, because you were banned from those overseas forums from speaking, and that's how you launched dLife in 2014. And as apparently I understand it, you had the second biggest following on those overseas forums after the admins. So that speaks about the credibility of what you were saying and how people were benefiting from it.
Yes, that's an interesting one. There was one forum which was launched, I think, in January 2013. And basically, it was a sub part of a bigger network of community. There, when I started talking of 100 grams carbohydrate, I think I must have been banned 6 or 7, 8 times. I don't remember now. And I used to resurface with another name, another, screen, because I was very, very enthusiastic for this message to spread because it was working on me. So if it was working on me, why not others? So, in fact, there, I think the first person to, buy this argument, it took me 2 months to get a person to buy this argument. Now, the second person who took that, understood this was a 70-year-old type 2 diabetic, eyes failing, on insulin. And then when he turned over to this 100 grams concept, first day he had a hypo. But since he was already injecting, insulin, he was aware of what to do, how to adjust. And thereafter, since I was getting banned repeatedly, I thought, now let's do something where I cannot be banned at all. So that is how dlife.in, though the domain was booked in 2012, and idea was not clear what to do, but something had to be done. So we started dlife.in on 21st of August 2014. We launched the forum, and rest is history after that.
Yeah, Anu, before we talk about your brilliant numbers that have come in the blood work that you did 2, 3 days back, let us go back to the time when you were experimenting with things. And why do you now think, or even at that point of time, what was your conclusion about why anything above 100 grams carbs would not work? Because a lot of people who do not understand the sustainability or the efficacy of the 100-gram carbs, and just to be different, they are talking, probably peddling unscientific numbers. If it's 120, it can be 150, and then therefore 200 also. Why not
Yes.
200? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the spectrum that you saw while you were doing 100 grams and when you went ahead of 100 grams?
I mentioned about rolling a dice to come to a number, right? So if you look at Jocelyn's low carb diet, it's 45% carbohydrate. So anybody who's rolling a dice to come to a number, they will always refer that 45% as the reference point. But for me, that is not high carb, as not low carb. And 120, 100, 80, 60, 50. I mean, I have played with all the numbers from 50 grams right up to 160, 170. In my 12th year podcast, if you see, my A1C is 5.6. That is the time when I was having around 150, 160. For a reason that almost around, because of some professional commitment, I was just walking around for 4 hours. No sitting, exactly for 4 to 5 hours. I never sat down. So I thought, might as well up the carbohydrate. I did that. And, next, I think the report that came, A1C was perfectly fine. And that time the host asked me, are you happy with it? I said, yes. If I looked singularly at the
A1C.
A1C, I should have been given a gold medal for hitting 12th year. But if I combine with my fasting insulin, and that number was 13.5, right? 160, 170, 150. I mean, in that ballpark. Fasting insulin was 13.5. Year before that, when it was not that high, it was 8.5, 8.7. And yesterday, I mean, the 13th of Feb, when I had my latest blood work, A1C is 5.7, but fasting insulin is 5.5. And why it is 5.7? Yes, I had, 20 months now I am living on, I would say, a carnivore diet with around 50 grams of carbohydrate. And people would be surprised to know that for last 20 months, I'm eating the same meal day in and day out. There is no change. Morning, it is, to sum it up in brief, it is 8 eggs, two portions, 2 servings of protein shake, 400 to 500 grams of boneless meat. Day in, day out, 20 months. And the numbers have turned out very encouraging. So why only 100? I would say now go down to 50 if you have a history of 15 years.
Hmm.
If you really want to, not be someone who is in for a quick buck, right? Otherwise, if I don't do fasting insulin, I'm happy with 5.6, 5.7. It's perfectly fine. I can put an excuse. Yes, I have lived for it 14 years, so maybe 5.7 is also okay. So you have to have that perfectionist attitude and you have to have an open mind. Instead of rolling a dice to come to a number, please apply the mind. Please have the reports in hand and then talk, discuss, or challenge. I can very well challenge anyone who's doing 150, 160 and calling it low carb. It is not.
Yeah, that brings us to my next question. I think it's very interesting, Anup. You are a pill-free diabetic, so-called diabetic, for the last 14 years. Now 15th is beginning. Is there anybody else? I mean, we would welcome and appreciate if there is anybody else in India who has lived pill-free for 14 years, being a diabetic. But what are your thoughts about this, Anup? I think the only person that we know as of now who has lived a pill-free life for 14 long years, not one or two, 14 years, almost a decade and a half. Being despite being a diabetic, zero pills and brilliant numbers. As I said, we would love to know if there's anybody else in India. So far, it's only you we know. So, what are your thoughts about this brilliant achievement?
Well, till somebody comes in with evidence, I would retain that, top spot on the pedestal, victory pedestal, right? So it's number one, me. And I don't think anybody would have lived so long without pills. Zero, not even one. And my blood sugars, I've been so confident of that 100 grams carbohydrate that for years I never tested. After 2013, the last lab test, I did in 2020, numbers perfect. Then I did it in 2022, I think 2022 or 23. Yeah, 23. Then 2 years no test and 2025, the numbers are perfect. Why should I, keep testing until or unless somebody sponsors me to, write a paper? Then I'll test it every 3 months just to plot a graph, beautiful graph, do regression analysis, come to conclusion and, quote then 100 references to get my case published in some journal. But that is not my intention, never was. Yes, I have
Yeah, as
around,
you talked about random community trial. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
People talk of RCT. See, it is my personal opinion, this RCT, this random clinical trial, quote unquote, which is primarily receptor response for drugs, basically. Now, you cannot extend that RCT to diet by any means. That is why I call it, yes, we are also doing RCT with a difference. It is random community trial. And that community, I think, must be around, if we talk of just our community, it's must be around close to 5,000 plus success stories. And every month, as we, the team of trained coaches going through the course, once they step into market, conservative figure will be 200, growing by 200 cases per month. And if by end of this year, there are 250 coaches, 500 per month. So that is the true RCT, random community trial.
Hmm. Huge team there. Now we are nearing 300 and 100 plus are already out in the market. The next batch will have more. So, Anup, your personal journey has been very, very inspiring, to people in the low carb space in India, especially, and especially to Indian vegetarians who had no clue about the low carb diet on a grain based, carbohydrate based heavy plate. And when you came around and gave this template of 100-gram carbs per day in 2012, after having done it already for 1 year, I think this signaled a change in the status quo of LCHF also, and the The separation of low carb, Indian low carb is not the Western keto, was very, very, I think that's a very pioneering idea that encouraged more people to try low carb, which they were already doing since 2011 with you on these UK based forums and international forums and all of that. But I think where you really cracked the thing was in 2012 and afterwards 2014 when you founded India's only low carb platform and now the single biggest low carb platform in the world with huge premium curated data to be able to visualize something as back as 2012 and then launching 20 in 2014, what now is a Herculean force to reckon with, not only in India, but as the global stalwarts talk about dLife and whether it's Dr. David Unwin or David Diamond or any of those. I mean, many congratulations for coming up with this. But what were the initial challenges that you faced with doctors? Because
Doctors,
this
yeah,
is something that you were
yeah,
challenging the status quo of the medical protocol, so to say, where you were not wanting to manage diabetes, but you wanting to change things about it. So talk about
that's an interesting question because early stages of success, I was very, very enthusiastic about talking to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who came across. Everyone. I would talk to my neighbor, I would talk to my friends, and obviously I had to talk to my doctor also. Now the response that I got was, down the line you will die of multiple organ failures because of high fat. And the problem is when I quoted to him the literature, he said, "Oh, हम लोग guideline follow करते हैं." So guideline essentially means a printed pamphlet with a flow chart that if a person walks in with these numbers, give him metformin, 2 years down the line, add some sulfonylurea drug, then add DPP4, then add SGLT2I, finally, of course, insulin shots. So yes, there was a lot of resistance. I mean, that doctor was a friend. Despite that, he discouraged me and warned me that I'll be dead with multiple organ failures. Fortunately enough, I'm still alive with excellent numbers, that can put to shame the best practitioner out there, best endo out there. If he can, just reproduce these results even with a case where a person is 3 years, into diabetes. They won't because they have not been trained to essentially look anything beyond what the Rockefeller gang has been taught to speak about. And that is essentially, chemicals pushed down your throat to manage or suppress, not even manage, to suppress symptoms. One symptom is suppressed, you come up with another. Like, for example, the latest in-trend drug, Ozempic or weight loss drug. People are losing eyesight. Now, for that eyesight, there'll be an opthal doing all those laser tricks on the eye to recover some part of it. It doesn't work. So essentially, even now, 15 years down the line, yes, as Shashi said, there are doctors who are understanding the importance, and there are doctors who are willing to change. But that number is very, very minute. In the course itself, we have 16% enrollees as doctors, and that number turns out to be 48. We are waiting to hit the 50th one to celebrate again as a small milestone achieved. And that's it. Nobody, I mean, if you talk of any doctors online, I've been having a tiff with
I think
so
I would
many.
just want to pitch in here recently. I mean, you are aware, but just for the viewers, I mean, I got contacted by a doctor from the UK and who said she had been referred to the dLife course by Dr. David Unwin. And she'll likely join the course in some time. But that's the credibility, Anup, that you have created in the market, in the space of low carb, in the space of health and nutrition and reversing chronic diseases. That even doctors you are training, even doctors at dLife 48 are currently with us. That's a huge number. And these are the doctors who have taken the lead in their practice already
Yes.
because they're applying low carb diet on their patients and seeing wonderful results. And we have mainstream doctors, we have doctors who are also from homeopathy stream, and so many others. So definitely you have challenged the status queue by not only refusing to not go on pills, but by launching dLife and then subsequently launching the course, which is now training doctors, which is being referred to by global doctors, which has been reviewed by global doctors. And that's a brilliant achievement, in all seriousness, Anup. Let's talk about the course itself. Congratulations to you and to all of us for being accrued the biggest 144 CPD credits by
Yes.
CPD So UK. That's a huge achievement in this space because we are the biggest course in the world in this space, as accredited by the CPD So UK, and in India we are the only course approved under the NSDC Partner, Government of India. So speaks a lot about the course, about the credibility of the course being approved by the government itself, where no other course exists in this space. I mean, how did you conceive? You've always been a kind of thought leader. When nobody existed, you talked about 100-gram carbs per day. When no forum existed, you launched dLife. When nothing existed in the in the course space, you launched a course which is now the biggest course in the world in this space, and in India too. So tell us about this whole journey. How did you start thinking about the course itself?
Let me start with Forum. 2014, I was basically solo. It's along with few other people. It needed courage, it needed conviction, and it needed cash because this was not a sponsored or taking donations and running a forum. 3.5 years for 10 hours a day minimum. We were doing what is in vogue. Ask me anything. Ask me anything on Twitter. No, it doesn't work. Ask me anything on forum. It works because the data is recorded for life, whatever the conversations are. Now, doing something which did not exist always excites me mentally. But then again, courage, conviction, and cash comes into play. And having been operational for 10 to 12 years, now it is almost 10 plus years as an online operation, gave us the credibility and the clout. So, on these 5 points, the only thing missing was there was no course again in India specifically catering to this segment of population. So this is how it started in 2020. We were planning to launch the course and then COVID struck, but we did not give up. And today we are, 4 years down the line. Every 2 years we are updating the course, and 4 years down the line, as you said, we have become largest in terms of CPD So creditors. And I don't think the way we have bundled the course that there can be any replication possible, given the fact that 10 years of curated data is offered free as part of the course when they enroll. And this is something which cannot be done in 1 year or 2 years, because 10 years will take 10 years to achieve that quality of content, because content is king finally. And yes, every 2 years we have updated the course. Enrollments are happening, and soon we'll be having 300th enrollment. Not a small figure when I look back 2014 where we started and where we are today and what we are planning in future.
Hmm. Absolutely agree with you. The way the course has grown. I mean, when I joined, it was one of the best courses, and that's what I knew. But very soon I realized what I was getting here at dLife, I probably couldn't get anywhere else, because wherever you go, you get pay the money, you get certified, and that's the end of the game. Nobody has you for life in the community, on the forum, giving you access to recipes. So what Anup has done for dLife to grow thus far has been immense, and we are very, very grateful to what you have done, Anup. And therefore, good karma, as you said in the earlier session, comes back.
Yes.
Your coaches are growing, and they have shattered all boundaries of success that they are going out and achieving every day. I mean, success stories after success stories is making people uncomfortable, and good for us, because we are out there to challenge the status quo, not to time pass. As you've always trained us to put our heads down and keep working, I think the entire team is following your the mantra that you've given us. And thank you so much for creating this forum. Thank you so much for creating the course, and thank you so much for creating the team that now we are heading in, in a very significant direction as we grow to 300 now. with 48 doctors. That's not a small number. 21 countries are enrolled with us. So imagine the trust people have from all over the world to enroll into the dLife program diploma course, which is the biggest CPD accrued hours of 144 that nobody else in the world has. So big milestone, and many congratulations for recently getting accrued with 144 CPD hours.
Thank you.
Okay, next, let's talk about the collaborations, that I've been seeing and we have been a part of actually so far. And big brands have collaborated with dLife, and many are in queue. We are in talks with a lot of other brands as well. One may come through very soon after the MHC. Anup, what is happening? Why are brands queuing up to collaborate with dLife in this space?
Essentially, dLife is not a person on Twitter anymore now, right? It's a brand, and brands always collaborate with brands. With individuals, they have some affiliate model. We are not affiliates. We have collaborated in such a way that we have got the best price for the last person in queue. We don't take anything. Coaches don't get anything. Every single penny benefit has been passed on to the mentees of all the mentors, whoever they prefer to pass it on to. And as I said, big brands will only collaborate with brands. They will never collaborate with the next person walking on the sidewalk, because they're immaterial to their business model. They're immaterial to their growth model. And as I said, clout. That is the underlying word. The clout is now making such collaborations possible, and many more will come. This is not the end of it. That Thyrocare and iThrive, the two big names that have collaborated, many will come. As we grow, don't be surprised if there's a big queue waiting outside your office to have an appointment and talk.
Yeah, I'm very glad for that actually, because 2025 began with a bang when we updated the course and we got the CPD accreditation, or the upgraded 144 hours. That came as a total happy moment and surprise, and all of that. Although we were expecting it to be that huge, but it has just matched the kind of the status that the government of India NSDC partner has given us also in India, which is I think you would talk about it more.
Yeah, I think the NSDC partner certification in detail would be discussed by in subsequent one session by the person, the man himself. But yes, in this segment, there is no other course which to have this approval, and especially getting the approval for when the word diploma is attached to it. It's not an easy process. If it is just a participation certificate, anybody can probably get it. But to get through a diploma approved as a course, it's not an easy job. And NSDC, for those who don't know, it comes under Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, which is again a ministry and not some NGO, type of an operation giving out some raddi, I would say, dressed as certificate.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And we will have Mr. Rizwan Khan, the man
yes,
who is heading all of this, in one of our sessions. And we kept this session to discuss about the course and its credibility in India, which was long due. Probably it was planned in the last MHC, but that couldn't happen. But I think it's the correct time to have Mr. Rizwan Khan in one of the sessions. I
yes.
think people who are enrolled into the course, the doctors also, and other people and people who are thinking of enrolling into the course, it doesn't get any bigger than this. You will hear this probably and more about the course from Mr. Rizwan Khan, who's scheduled for the third day. You can look in the scheduled PDF and know when his session is. So Anup, now coming to the most important question probably. Um, what next now after having created, first come up with the milestone of the path breaking protocol of 100-gram carbs per day, and living a pill free life for 14th year, now 15th is beginning, wonderful numbers on your blood work, creating the forum, and giving the access to all of this for free for all of our dLife course enrollees, and then coming up with a course that is the only course approved under the government of India NSDC partner, then upping the CPD hours accrued to us by upgrading, massive upgradation of the course has happened, and you work tirelessly, sleepless nights, I would say, when you put this all together. Hats off to you for what you've created, Anup. It's going to kind of keep waking people up for a long, long time to come. So, talking about the next big dream that you have, uh, what are you going to do next? You are unstoppable in that sense. You've been going on and on since 2012. When you keep shattering the, myths and the glass ceiling and, bringing something new for people that has never been done before. So, what is your next plan?
Next plan, yes, again, as I said, something which is not doable for an ordinary person or in general, it excites me a lot. So dLife now is no more I would say it's a journey which is endless, right? So every time we take a step forward, then think of the next step to take. So going ahead, the immediate plans are now to come up with a wellness retreat. And for that, I think we have been doing a lot of hard work since last. I mean, you were also involved there. We've been hunting for some location, a perfect one, and we had certain, benchmark said that it has to be within X kilometers of airport. So we have shortlisted land. Negotiations are on. Soon we may sign a agreement for land purchase. Then, of course, finally, just like dLife has become the benchmark, I would want to have a five-star rated wellness retreat where again people come and they are awestruck. They get the aha feeling when they walk into the premises. So that's the aim. The next
Yeah,
step and the
having the expertise in, the pioneering work that you've done already in the low carb space, and having a retreat to that effect where people can have that luxurious five-star experience of that aha moment or that wow moment, along with learning low carb and applying the low carb dietary intervention on them and seeing their chronic diseases reverse. I mean, that's a great experience, and I think there's a huge market to that, and it has never been done before either in India and I think
yes, never.
in the global space as well, something to that tune. And for a person to singularly do this on his own is huge. Anup, I don't know how you're going to pull this through, but then every time you've done something like that, people have had their apprehensions of how you're going to pull this through, but you have done it, and I'm sure you're going to do it again and keep surprising the world and taking them um, giving something new to people. And as you said, it's going to be very difficult to emulate, even for the, if we start from the forum days. I mean,
Yes.
imagine what the value and the experience that you gave to people on the forum, where they could post their blood work and get a guidance step by step on how to apply low carb. And as Anup said, he ran, asked me anything, kind of coquettish things that are going on Twitter and all of that. Anup, Shashi, Arun, they've all done it for, dinosaur number of years. So, forum was run free and they were doing AMA and all of that the entire day, with hundreds of people, and that's on record. These are the success stories that are on, the dLife forum. So I'm sure you're going to, again, forum after the forum, the course again. Nobody can offer this kind of bundling, as I would say, as we keep saying. In other courses, you get in, you pay for the certificate. That's the end of the game. What do they do after that? So there is a free, I would want to highlight, free and complimentary access to the WhatsApp community, to the forum, to the recipes, and everything that dLife has built over 10 years. So you don't just get certified here, you are part of the community. Unless, there is some breaking of TOS, nobody has been removed and our old members existing. And, they all have access to what dLife has built Anup has built with his sweat and blood. You have access to all of that. And that's a big gesture from your side, Anup. Anything else that you would want to say? I mean, I know that we are taking a giant step in a new, in a new space, and a team that delivers has come together in terms of the core team that we will keep reviewing and adding and deleting people who bring something to the table. What are your thoughts about the way we are going right now? The private limited of dLife that has happened, dLife Healthcare Private Limited, and that's again a big step. And the core committee that has now come into place, depending on what they're contributing, bringing to the table, it'll always be shuffled. And down the line, when we come up with this project, and as we go ahead with this project, what are your, plans?
Looking at around 3 years of gestation period, because project of this scale needs uh, time, and a lot of big financing is involved. So 3 years I'm looking at gestation period. I'm not in a hurry to, have it started maybe next year and then make mistakes along the way. No. And the primary goal is why I'm taking 3 years is because even retreat part will have to be, I mean, the bundling has to be such that it would be a nightmare for any other competitor to even think about it. And
It
bundling
has
is
been
as
a
such.
nightmare already, Anup. Otherwise, this template would have been created long back. So people are trying to do some things or the other,
Yeah,
I think dLife has been quite a big inspiration as far as the low carb itself movement, the low carb movement itself was kicked up by you. And since then, all of these names on Twitter are all dLife coaches. And I think it's high time people started asking about their certification because it's a very credible certification, and you would see more from Rizwan Khan, who is coming on one of our sessions. He's the guy with the who's the NSDC partner under the government of India. He's the face of the government of India body. So you will have more on the course, but I think it is already a nightmare because people do not have a forum, they do not have a community, they do not have 2,000 recipes, they do not have nearing 300 people. So whatever you do, kind of here and there, I think it's just attempting to be Anup Singh and dLife. And I think it's going to be not just nightmare. I think it's not possible for anybody to emulate this. Had it been possible, it would have been done long back. And now, when you're going ahead with the retreat, and again, you're bundling it with the course, with the forum, with the recipes, with the coaches, we will be taking into our retreat project on the panel. I think it's a huge, complex model that is not, the cup of tea of one person, as you said, a name on Twitter versus a brand. So yeah, so please carry on and conclude with this.
Yeah. In just, if I state, I basically, it would not be, pay X thousand rupees per night, come for 7 days, enjoy and walk off. Bundling will be with the coaches. As long as you're within the retreat, you are taken care of physically. Then when you move out, depending on whatever, plan that you subscribe to, you'll be attached to a dedicated coach for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Once that expires, then you are on forum for another year. So good luck to anybody who wants to copy it. First, they have to create 10 years of community data, then have a team of 300 plus and growing coaches. Because down the line, 3 years, I'm presuming we'll have around 500 coaches, very well operational. And yes, the core team will always have the final say of what happens, because now it is not a name on Twitter; it's a brand on Twitter.
Yeah, very well said. And I think with this, we come to the end of this session. Anup, you just tested 2 days back, and perfect numbers and beautiful numbers that you have again, reproduced after being 14th year pill-free diabetic. And you continue to be an inspiration for so many people. As of now in India, you may be a record holder being 14th year pill-free diabetic, unless we see somebody else's evidence, which we are very open to, and we would appreciate anybody who has that evidence to come forth and participate in the celebration of being pill-free. But till we have none, from anybody in India, I think you hold the record and you hold that zenith of being pill-free diabetic for 14th year, moving on to the 15th year now. Many congratulations from me, Shashi, Arun, everybody from Team dLife, from the core group, and from everybody, I think, on behalf of everybody in the low carb space in India and overseas as well.